Hello everyone and welcome to this webinar, which today is all about grading. We're going to look at all aspects of grading, from creating grading templates for your school to grading items, including homework, quizzes and task lists, as well as workbook files. Then we'll look at collating your grades in the Workbook. So let's start by having a quick look at a piece of homework. So this is a piece of homework I've set for my students, and if I scroll down, you can see a student has submitted some work, and I can click to grade that student's homework. And you'll see here that I have a grading template applied to this homework, and in fact the grading template is applied to the group that the homework was set for, the class. A teacher that's grading can override that template and choose a different template to grade this work. But obviously, if you set the template up correctly in the first place, it should automatically show the correct grading template for your class's work. So let's go over to our grading center and have a look at how templates are put together. If I go to Manage, now I'm logged in as an admin manager. So either the full administrator of your system or any admin manager can manage the grading templates. If I go into Manage and click Grading, you can see there's a bunch of grading templates in here. And some of these, right down to the one percentage, these are all inbuilt in your system. They're already available for you to choose, and you can simply activate them by clicking Activate, and then you can apply them to all groups or selected groups. If the template that you want to use for grading is not in this list, you can create your own. So these ones here have all been created on the system. They're custom templates that you can add yourself. And to add a new template, you simply go to the bottom and click to add a custom scale. So let's have a look at one of these grading templates to see how they work. If I just edit this A to F template, you'll see that the grades are listed from the highest or best, if you like, down to the lowest grade. There's a colour applied to each grade so you can see at a glance how well you've done. And we've also applied a short label. Now this can be more descriptive than simply a letter, so you could put a short word or phrase here. We don't use the extended labels anymore, so you can ignore those. But one absolutely vital component of any grading system is that you put in a percentage for each grade. This means that when you put all your grades together, and you may have used different grading templates for different pieces of work, you can then calculate things like average, or you can add together the grades of a student, and the grades are all meaningful in a table. And this is very important when you start to add your grades to the Workbook. You can see I've also ticked here to hide percentage. So that means that when a student looks at their grade, they don't see that this grade has 75% added to it. Okay, so let's have a go at creating a grading template. So just to remind you where we are, I went into Manage, Grading, and I'm going down to the bottom here, and I'm going to create my own brand new grading template on here. So I click that plus, and I've given my grading template a name. So I'm just going to call this a proficiency scale. And I'm going to choose to hide the percentage. And I'm going to add my first level. So the first level is always the highest level. And in this case, I'm going to give the highest level an E, and I'm going to call it exceeded. That means the student has exceeded the expectation for this piece of work. And I'm also going to add the percentage, which in this case is 90%. And I'm going to create that level. Now, as you're creating your levels, you don't need to add colour or percentage. You can do those at the end, and it actually is a bit faster to do that. So I'm just going to quickly now go in and add 3 more levels. So add level, P for proficient, create level, W for working towards, and the final one is N for not started. Okay, so I have 4 different colors to add. So I'm going to start at the top with bright green, going for more of a sort of yellow color, then orange, and finally end up with a red. So I've got 4 colors, and then just add my percentages. So just type in 60 and 30 and leave that one as 0. And that's it. My grading template is done. I say save and continue. And that's that. It should be at the bottom here. Here's my new proficiency scale. And I'm just going to click to activate it. Now I could at this point apply this to all the groups in the school. Or I could apply it to selected groups by ticking groups here in this list. So I'm actually going to apply it to my grading class. So I'm going to tick that class and apply to selected groups. And that's it. My grading template is there. Any teacher grading work can now choose that template from the list while they're grading. Teachers can also apply a grading template to their class. And I'm going to go through the process of how to do that. It's very quick and easy, and any teacher who's a manager or a teacher in a class can do this. So I'm going to go to classes, and here's my grading class. And I'm going to pull down the class menu, and I'm going to manage the settings of my group. And under advanced options, this is where there's the option here to select the grading template for your group. Now you can see that the proficiency template has already been added because this is the group that I applied it to. If I'd wanted to, I could have chosen any grading template to apply to this group. But today I do want to use the proficiency scale. So I'm going to leave that. And then all I do is save changes. And as I say, any teacher can go into any class, choose the settings, advanced options, and choose the template they want to use. So it's a good idea to empower teachers in your school to give them the knowledge to be able to go in and do this. It's very helpful for teachers to feel that they have that level of control. Okay, so I've created a grading template. I know how to apply it to my groups. So the next thing I want to do is to grade. So let's start off by grading homework. So if I just choose homework from the menu, and I've already created a piece of homework for my grading class called geography homework, which I showed you earlier. So this is the homework. We've got the description of what I want the students to do. And the student has submitted a piece of work. So the first thing to note about homework is that you can grade individual pieces of work. If the student had submitted several pieces of work, they can all be graded individually. And then I also have the opportunity to grade the homework overall. And it's the homework grade overall really that's the most important one. This is the one that you would save and use in the future. So you may choose to grade the document, but if in doubt, if you're only going to do one grade, grade the homework. but I'm going to show you how to grade this particular document. So I simply click into the student's file and I can read the essay that the student has submitted. And I can mark this work, although this session is not about the marking of work, I will mention this. Because this is a Word document, I can go in here and click at the top here to leave feedback. And that allows me as a teacher to add marks to the work. So if I felt that at this point in the document the student should start a new paragraph, I go to my marking tool, which is in the toolbar at the top here, and I can just click on new paragraph, and that drops a mark into the page and allows the students to see the teacher's markings. And the marks in this marking tool can be set up by your school. These are just standardized marks, but you can change or edit any of these marks. You can remove ones that you don't use and add the ones that you do. And this is something your admin person or any admin managers can do on your system. Okay, so I've just marked up this piece of work. I click to leave feedback, and that leaves a copy of that file with your teacher's markings in it. However, what I do want to do with this file is actually just grade it. So I'm opening it up. I can click on grade. Now, because this work was set for this particular group, the grading group that I applied that grading template to, you can see I've already got my proficiency grading template available to use. And I can judge that this student is proficient in using this, and I can leave feedback for my student. So I can say, well written, William, and save. And you can see that the P, the proficient grade, has been added to the grade at the top there. Now I'm just going to refresh the page first, because when you refresh the page, you can see that that grade has also been applied to that particular file. Now, if you imagine this student had submitted 2 or more files here, they can all be graded individually and you can see the grades that you've applied. Now I'm ready to grade the homework. And as I mentioned before, you don't have to grade the document. You might just read the document and then grade the homework. So I'm going to go in here and apply a grade to the homework overall. And it might be that the homework overall, he exceeded his proficiency. And I leave feedback again. And save. Okay, so let's have a look at this grading from the student's perspective. So I'm logged in here as the student. The student can go, a student and the parent in fact, can go to the grading centre, which is available to students and parents, as well as teachers. And you can see here at the top that the most recent pieces of grading are right at the top of the list. William can come in here at any time and just check the top of the list of grading to see his most recent grades. He can see the grade that he was given. If he hovers over, he can see the short label from the grade, and he can also see any comments or feedback provided by the teacher. If they want to, they can go in here and do a search or by filtering the grades by group, by title, by subject, and so on. So that's from the student's perspective. And if I go into homework, you can see immediately at this top level that the student can see the grade and the feedback that was given for the homework overall. So he can see how he's done without even going into the homework. If he does go into the homework, he can see the grade for his work, for his actual document. And if he hovers over that, he can see the comment that was given. He can also see the homework grade overall. And again, if he clicks on that, it comes up in a pop-up and tells him what the grade is. So the grading is very visible to students. They can see it, they can have a look at it at any time. It's very obvious and visible to all of them. So that's how to grade homework. What about quizzes? So I'm just going to switch over to the teacher. I'm going to go to classes, into the grading class, and here's the quiz. When a teacher goes into a quiz, they can see the results of the quiz by clicking up here. And you can see that William previously answered the quiz. So what I can do, if you imagine my whole class has answered this quiz, I can come in at any time, select a grading template, click to tick or select all my students, and grade the selected students. And you can see that based on William's percentage result for this quiz, which I can already see is 81%, he achieved proficient in this quiz. So that's how to grade a quiz. Now, one thing I didn't mention when I was in homework, and I'll just go into that homework. So this is the homework that I previously graded. When I've graded my homework, I have the option at the bottom to export the grade to the Workbook. And this is important. So if I want to save these grades into the Workbook so that I can collate them later, I just click this button at any time. And this knows that this homework was set for the grading class and that the subject is geography, and I just say export. Any existing grades have gone to the Workbook, and I can carry on grading other students now. And I can save those grades, and those grades will automatically go to the Workbook as I work. Okay, so that's how I send grades to the Workbook within homework. If I go back to my class, and I go back into the quiz, into the results, I can do the same from a quiz as well. So again, if you imagine I had a whole list of students here and I had graded their quizzes, I can send those grades to the Workbook. And again, grading class, but this time I just want to choose the subject, geography, and export. Okay, so that's homework and quizzes. The next thing I want to look at are task lists. So if I go to tasks, again, as you can imagine, I have set a task list for my grading class. Here it is. And if I click into that task list, as a teacher, it always takes me to the page that shows me the progress of the students. Now, when a student achieves 100% in a task list, it's already ticked to say they've completed it. And you can also see in this column that none of these students have had their work validated. So as a teacher, to validate their work, all I have to do is click Save Changes. That ticks the validation column. It marks their task list as being completed, and it goes to the completed tab for the students. So it disappears from their task lists to do and goes into the tab that says completed. You can see I've already graded Kyra's task list. So she has completed her task list and I have given her a grade for this. Now, there's no obvious way here to grade a task list. What you need to do with task lists is grade each student individually. So you click into the student's name and you apply the grade and save. And then just go back to the list of students and you can go and do the next one. So it does take a little bit more effort to grade a task list, and really in most cases in a task list there isn't great deal of need to grade the work, because in a task list, you're sending students off to do some work, to view something, to read something, to do something. If you want a grade from a task list, what I would generally do is add a quiz to that task list, and then the quiz can be graded according to the student's results. When you're grading a task list like this is very much a teacher assessment. So it's not grading a formal assessment that the student's done. This is very much a teacher just watching or questioning students and confirming with a grade how well they understand the topic. And again, once you've graded a task list, you can export to the Workbook. The final place where you can apply grades in Fusion is the Workbook. So in the Workbook, the students submit files to their workbook, and any teacher can come in here, go into the grading class, go into geography, and this is William. Now, the grading class has simply identified the members of that class. And then here are all the files that William Fry has submitted to geography. And you can see the dates on those files. And I can see this one was submitted yesterday. So this is the most recent file, and this is the one that I'm interested in grading. So I click on the file, and you'll recognize this. It's the same piece of work that William submitted for the homework. So this is a different way to submit work, and it could have been done as part of a task list. So you might have said, as one of the tasks in a task list, please write an essay and submit it to your workbook. A teacher can come in here, and just like with homework, you can edit this file and apply your feedback. And you can also grade the work here. Now you'll see this one, because in a workbook, the student's work is not assigned to a class as such, it's only assigned to a subject. Your class's grading template won't automatically be chosen. So you might have to choose that first. Then you apply the grade. Now, something else I haven't mentioned before, when you're applying a grade, you'll see that the proficient grade automatically has 60% associated with it. I can actually change that percentage, and in fact keep changing it until I pass a threshold, and it automatically goes up. This helps me to differentiate between my students. So I can get, even though they've got the same grade, I can give them different percentages, so that when the percentages are all added up later on, the students are better differentiated. And again, I can give a comment to William here and save. Now, there's currently no mechanism to export grades from a workbook to the Workbook. So that's something to note. There's no automatic way of doing that. So if you do intend to use the Workbook, I recommend that you set your assignments in the homework tool. Okay, so the last thing to look at then is the Workbook. I've been sending my grades into the Workbook. So let's go and have a look at that. So I go into my menu, go to the Workbook, choose my group, choose the subject, say continue, and here we have the 3 pieces of work that I have sent. So that was the first one, the geography homework. And if you remember, I graded William first, then I sent the grades to the Workbook, and then I graded Kyra's work. And you can see that Kyra's work has come to the Markbook as well, even though it wasn't graded when I sent it to the Markbook. So that was my quiz, and that one was the task list. Now, you can see here I have an average grade, and that other grade is using a traffic light. So I can change that to proficiency. So now you can see these have been averaged, and my average grade overall, not started, proficient, working towards, and not started. Okay, so even though I've used different grading templates here to grade this work, I can average the grades using any template I want. There's an option here to fetch grades. So if I had done another piece of homework for this group, which I haven't actually done, I can come here and search for any homework, task lists, or quizzes that have already been done but have not yet been brought into the Markbook. It just so happens there aren't any at the moment because I've only done these 3 pieces of work for this group. But if there was any other pieces of homework that had been completed for this group, it would list them here and I could choose to bring them in. So by pulling them in from the Markbook rather than pushing them from within homework. I can also create manual grades. So let's say I had a classroom assessment where I was talking to the students, questioning them, watching them, what they were doing in groups, that sort of thing. I can create a whole new grade column. Okay, so it creates a whole new column, and you can see that there are grading buttons here for each of the students. So I can go in here now and manually grade these students on their proficiency in the classroom, how they've been doing. There you go. And that will automatically change the average grades, and each student now, you can see what the average grade is for all the various things that they've done. Now, if I want to, as a school, I can choose to use categories in the Markbook. So I can give different weightings to different kinds of work. So if I tick to use categories, there's a number of categories already built in. And again, your admin decides what these categories are, and they will create these for your whole school. But you as a teacher can come in here and you can tick which of these categories you want to use. And you need to give them a weighting. And this weighting should add up to 100%. So it could be that your exams are worth 60%, for example. In fact, I'll type that in, it's quicker. And your coursework is worth 30%, and your homework just 10% weighting. So then when your final grades or scores are averaged out, each of these different types of work will have the correct weighting. Now, at the moment, we haven't been labeling these as we've gone because the categorization wasn't switched on. So if I just go in here, I can decide that this is a classroom assessment. So I can call this, for example, coursework. Okay, this one here was a piece of homework, so I can label that homework. And the system will now know what piece of work that was and what weighting it's due. Okay, so that's how to use the categories. What I can also do is tick any of these and create a report for parents or for the student. So I can tick the things that I want to report upon, and I can click to create a report. And what it does for each student is it lists all these various pieces of work, the grade you got, and the average score. And you can see there's one for each student. And I can choose to either print these out on paper, which we don't generally want to do, or I can create a report and that is sent to the student's locker. In each student's locker, there's a folder for Workbook reports. And these Workbook reports can be viewed by parents using the Workbook reports button in there. You can enhance these by adding a title or a description to these as well. And you can choose whether to show the name of the class group or not. What I can also do is go in here and choose a date range. And that will only include particular dates, and then I can generate reports from that particular date range. So that's how to use the Workbook. There is help in the Workbook. There's actually a specific Workbook tutorial, and the link to that tutorial is there on the page. So you can always go in and refresh yourself on how to use the Workbook at any time. Just to remind you that there is a lot of help in the system for grading and homework. If you go to the help system, go to the Knowledge Hub and just type in grading, you can see that there's help articles here which you can access at any time. Okay, so that's our webinar on grading. Does anyone have any questions? Is there anything you would like to address at this stage? No, no questions at all. That's great. That must mean that you found it understandable. So that's great. Thank you very much for attending. And that concludes our webinar on grading. Thank you very much, everyone.